YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing, I guess you could say it's like a story time, but at the same time it's kind of like informative, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to be doing today is actually talking through some of my crazy ass beliefs. Now, before anyone starts thinking not all of this stuff is scientifically backed up, obviously some of this is just my beliefs. It's not like 100% factual or anything like that. Some of the bits I speak about do have science and history behind it, and then some of the other things obviously don't. They're just my thoughts and beliefs. So yeah, hopefully at the end of this someone don't try and lock me up. But I'd be really interested to hear what other people think about what I think about things, or whether I'm just a complete fucking nutter. But I'm just somebody that will always speak my mind, as long as obviously what's coming out your mouth is, you know, fairly respectful. I'm just always somebody that will speak my mind, even if other people think like I'm weird or whatever. I just don't give a flying, you know what. So if you want to hear some of my crazy beliefs on what I think about kind of what's going on in the world, not just what's going on now, but just kind of like in general, and what I think this place is really about, and kind of what some of my beliefs are, you might laugh, you might find it interesting. But if you're interested, yeah, I was going to get onto my crazy beliefs. So most people know, and I wouldn't call this so much crazy, that obviously lately I've slightly changed in terms of I've stopped the new age stuff, because I do believe a lot of that is rooted in deceit and demonic background, and I've changed more in terms of like following the path of Yeshua and God. But like I said, I don't class myself as religious. I don't like label myself as that, because I don't believe it as I don't believe in it as a construct personally, which I've spoke about before. But I also have lots of other strange beliefs in relation to that. So I'm going to talk about some of these things. This is why it is funny when you get high, because you just ramble. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about, so the first thing is aliens. Now, I don't personally believe in aliens, so I think aliens, entities, whatever, are fallen angels. I don't know my views on space. I'm not convinced what NASA said is true, because obviously we know NASA have lied about pretty much everything. So I don't trust their version, and I don't trust what we get taught at school, but I don't really have any opinions on it because I haven't overly researched it, so I'm not knowledgeable enough to like sort of go into it or debate it loads. But there's something about it for me that just feels a bit dodgy. So I don't believe in like aliens coming from another planet and all this kind of stuff. And there was a verse in the Bible which described a spaceship as well, but my friend told me and I now can't remember. But yeah, I actually believe they're fallen angels. So when people talk about like the Anunnaki and all that kind of stuff, like obviously you see it a lot in Egyptian scripture. They reference to some god. You can see them referencing to these godlike figures. And I believe them to be fallen angels. And I think that's where I also believe in the Nephilim story. There is actually quite a lot of, from what I've seen anyway, I've already researched into it, a little bit of like evidence of giant bones and stuff like that. There's so much history, I believe, that we just don't get taught. I believe most of our history, I believe most things here is a lie. But yeah, when looking into that, I was like, hold on a sec. So I do believe that there was some interaction between them and humans, and that's where the Nephilim came about. I believe Atlantis was a real thing. I believe in all of that as well. I do kind of weirdly believe in Middle Earth. And that might sound strange to some people. I know there were some stories. Was it Admiral Byrd had that whole story? There was another story of like a father and a son that had been there. What I think it is, I don't know. And I'm not 100% sure if I, you know, could say it's definitely true. But there's something about it that I think, yeah, that could be, you know, I wouldn't say I 100% believed in it, but I am geared towards there could be something in the middle of the earth. I find that a very interesting concept. So I've read a little bit into that as well, but not loads. But yeah, I definitely believe aliens are fallen angels. And this is why when people say, you know, when you look about the Egyptians, they were doing, in terms of they talked a lot about the third eye, and they did certain practices. But I always say to people, but look what they were worshipping. They were worshipping like these different gods and these different sun gods, and that is seen as demonic. So when people reference back to that, I said, you have to be careful about what they were worshipping, because often, although they were very, very clever, I do believe these beings taught them lots of science and all this kind of stuff. At the same time, it's not coming from a good source. So that was something that I found interesting. People might think that's weird. But yeah, I do believe aliens are fallen angels. So yeah, I don't believe in this out of space alien concept, which might sound strange to some people, but yeah, so that's one of the things. But yeah, I do believe in God. I do believe in it. I think this place is so intelligently designed. Like when you look into the like Fibonacci sequence and geometry, and you look into like even like bits of quantum physics and mathematics, like it's so intelligently designed. I was like, there has to be an intelligent consciousness that made this. And I do believe in Yeshua, because to me it makes sense that God would have like a, I don't know how to describe it in the right way, but have like a medium in between. Do you know what I mean? Because especially when people are really, really going off track, it's hard to get people on track that I guess don't believe things as much as if they're not seeing it all the time. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I totally believe in the whole history of the Israelites. I do believe today that a lot of that story is hidden. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but a lot of that story is hidden. I don't believe they're telling the full truth about that either. So I've always had a belief about that. So yeah, some people might find that a little bit strange. I do obviously believe, I 1,000,000% believe in an afterlife. I don't even know if people have seen that Netflix program. Was it Surviving Death or something? Like there's too many, even the people that don't believe in it, like they're like, have these experiences. I'm like, there's no way that this is it. I don't believe energy dies. And I swear there was a rumor about 28 grams of body weight not being accounted for when you die, but again, that was ages ago, so I don't know how true that is anymore. But yeah, so I do believe in terms of like the afterlife. I don't believe when we're there that we can directly contact here, and that's why I say when people are speaking to psychics about maybe family members that are passed, I don't believe it's the family members they're speaking to. Like we all know Lucifer comes as an angel of light. It's very deceptive. You're not going to see all dark demonic stuff when you start going into it. They will trick you with nice stuff, you know. So I do believe that as well. I think I do believe in past lives as well. I don't really know how that all works, because obviously I'm assuming certain people will ascend or descend depending how they live their life, but maybe they need to like learn a few more things first. Obviously we're not supposed to know everything, I don't know. But I do believe in past lives, because there are so many accounts and documentaries of like young children, like literally young children that remember this whole past life, and there's no way they could have heard about it from anywhere else. And when they go to the place, it's like exactly correct. And this has happened so many times. And I think there has to be something in this. So I do kind of believe in that, even though I know that a lot of that concept, I know they speak about that, I think a lot in like Buddhism and a lot of the Eastern type religions, but I do believe in that concept. Like I said, I do think there is a lot of truth in religion, maybe mixed with obviously some lies too, but I do believe there is a lot of truth in it, and that is also something I weirdly believe in. So I was like, let's just put my weird beliefs out here. So yeah, I do kind of believe in that as well. I do believe most of our history is a lie. I totally believe in the whole, like I said, mud floods thing. I believe in the Nephilim. I believe in that whole story. I think there's so much stuff they're not showing us and they've covered up. You know what I mean? And when you look into a lot of practices, like I said, when you go back into certain, like let's take voodoo for an example, right? Where I say a lot of this, I believe a lot of this stuff to be demonic, because it goes back to what they would call the snake cult, and it always goes back to worshipping multiple gods. They'll have different ones, and you'll see it in lots of different cultures and societies in history. You know, even when you look at the Babylonians, they had the rain god and the storm god, and you know, you start to see the same story that happened with the Israelites, where they were worshipping things they shouldn't, you know, and they were idol worshipping and all this kind of stuff. And when you start to see some of the things these people are doing in history, you can see that what they were doing wasn't particularly good, and it wasn't helping, so clearly it didn't work, did it? But I do believe that you can get some short-term like benefits from it, but obviously long-term you're going to be in trouble. But yeah, I thought that was super interesting, because I do believe a lot of our history has been changed and they hide so much. So yeah, that is another one of my beliefs as well. I do believe, I 100% believe we can naturally heal. I do believe that to be more through God now, because like I said, I'm very, very cautious about, like I spoke about Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I used to love this guy. People know I was always talking about him. I was always going on about him all the time. And when I started looking into some of his stuff recently, someone, thank you to whoever wrote a comment on one of my YouTube videos, wrote, look into him and giant beings. So I just went on YouTube, like Joe Dispenza, giant beings. And straight away videos come up with him talking about him having some type of interaction and communication with these beings. He was saying that they're super interested in us, obviously. Stuff like that. Then I started to realise, hold on a second, is he using demonic shit to heal people? When I looked into his meditations again, I went, ah, and he does use a lot of chakra and all this kind of stuff. So it's going back into some of kind of the Eastern philosophies, mixed with some science. And when I heard he was working with NIH, again, I don't know how much work he actually did with them, I thought there's no way they'd allowed something like that if it was actually real. So I was thinking there has to be something weird about this, because when I started to see him, and now he's got like over 1 million followers, he's going around saying that he's curing people of cancer and all this kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I think there's 100% ways of doing things, but how is he getting away with that? And he's got 1.5 million followers, he's on all these shows. And then you take somebody like all the previous holistic healers, and let's take one of the main famous ones, Dr. Sebi, as an example, right? Who was claiming the same thing but using a different method. What happened to him? He gets silenced every 5 minutes, imprisoned and then killed. And how many holistic doctors have died over the last however many years? Like a ridiculous amount for speaking out about it. So why is this guy being allowed to get over 1 million followers and do what he's doing when he's preaching the same stuff as these people, but his methods are different? You have to look at the thing that's different, which would be the method. And I'm like, hold on a sec. I think he's allowed to do this stuff because the method he's using, because he's going through, I guess, the demonic type world, even though they make it seem all nice and fluffy and all that. That's why I think he's been allowed to do what he does today. Because it just started to add up in my head, like, how can you kill off Dr. Sebi, but yet allow Dr. Joe Dispenza to go around claiming the same type of things, but using a different method to do that? So it's not going through God. That's the problem. You know, and it's not using what God has given us to heal. They're using demonic stuff to heal, certain meditation techniques that we're not supposed to be doing, you know. And this is what I said in my other video about being careful what type of meditations you do. You do have to be careful, because it's like, well, where do these come from? You know, look, what was the history of that type of meditation? When you look into it, you start to understand the background of it. And that's why I say I was a bit skeptical. And don't get me wrong, like, I do love his message, and it's great to see people heal, but I query if it's through that world, is it temporary? Because when you look at a lot of, like, say, I've watched a lot of documentaries of witch doctors in Africa and stuff like that, and the healing is usually always temporary, because the devil can't heal. Only God can heal you. So you might get some changes temporary, but that doesn't often last long term, and this is the problem. But I guess most people live on a temporary basis these days. But I've always said to people, like, whatever happens here is temporary. Whatever happens next is for eternity. Worry more about that than here. But obviously there are other ways of healing. And this is the thing for me. I realised I was doing that stuff and going wrong because it's missing out certain things. And that's why I think he's allowed to do what he's doing. Because just think about it, you know. Why would everyone else be killed but not? It don't make sense to me. So yeah, that was another thing that I started to not believe in anymore, and I've changed my beliefs in that, in terms of I definitely think you can heal through God. I definitely think you can cure yourself still. I think it's just making sure you get the right method to do so, and obviously I think you can also help through diet and other things like that. But I do believe the mind is very powerful. I do believe still in a lot of the science. I do believe that our thoughts does have an effect on our biology, because there is science out there that does show that. I do believe obviously in parts of epigenetics there is science out there that shows that, but it's what you're adding on to that for me that's a problem. So nothing wrong with being positive and thinking good thoughts about your body. Obviously you want to do that, but it's the added on methods they're using that I query. So the only reason I say it is because I just say to people, look it up yourself and be careful, because I was duped. I don't want other people to be duped. And it actually frustrates me that people are kind of fooling people into this stuff, me included, for however many years, because I used to love him. You know, it frustrates me that we're just getting taken for fools. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many lies everywhere. Like, I've always said, I believe this place to be like a 3D simulation, you know. And I do believe this place to be like fake. You know, they do say that you don't actually touch anything. It's not actually solid due to frequency, vibration, etc. And I do believe a lot of what's here, like I said, to be fake. I believe we're living in a fake system. You know, we're not living how we're really supposed to be. I think a lot of us are very far away from who we're supposed to be, through programming, through TV, media, you know, anything. It could be like items, clothing, design, you know, all of this stuff. We're so overly programmed now, and we're throwing so much superficial shit at us all the time. I just feel like as a human race, not everyone, but we've kind of lost who we are. I don't feel like our values are often in the right place, you know. I believe a lot of us are chasing the wrong things, and I think that's why we've got so much mental health. You know, sadly, because it's awful. And I see it in my clinic, you know, when we take medical histories, and it's sad because I've seen over the years how much it's increased, and how many more people are on the same type of meds, and how many people are suffering from these type of things. And you start to think it's because we're living in a world that's set up in a way that it's not supposed to be. It's not suited to who we are. It's like we're living in a foreign land, you know, like even like the foods we eat, and you know, the way we live our work lives and just the whole environment, you know. And it, to me, it doesn't need to be like that, but obviously the way they've got it structured. And I don't think it's about money, because they've got trillions of pounds. They could, honestly, these big bankers, and we won't know, like, there's obviously, everyone knows the pyramid, and I do believe in the different like elite groups, and there's loads. I think there's probably over like, what, 13? I can't remember. There's one like Cloud9, obviously there's Illuminati, there's Freemason, there's loads. I don't remember the names of all of them off my head, but there is loads, and I'm sure we don't even know the names of the people at the top. Do you know what I mean? But even of the elite people that we do know of, I don't think it's just about money, because like I said, they've got trillions. They could honestly solve poverty 3 times over if they wanted to, you know. And that's why I say it doesn't matter how much we fight the little bits. It's never going to change unless we fight the main problem, the source of the issue. It's a bit like in health, get rid of the symptoms, not the underlying cause. It's not going to make a huge difference, you know. It's just like constantly putting plasters on things all the time, you know. And it's like, for me, it's about power for them. It's about control. There was a really interesting, and I can't remember his name. He was like a famous award-winning video and film director, and he was very friendly with Nick Rockefeller. And he said to him, he used to tell them that it's not about the money. Again, it's about the control. It's about the power. They want us all in a smaller part, because there's more than enough room on the earth. I'm sure there's lots of bits that we haven't even been allowed to inhabit. But I think that what they've kind of done is kind of getting us all in one place, because we're easier to be controlled then, you know. And I do believe it is a control mechanism. It's a power thing, you know. They've got this goal that they've had for however many years. It's been passed down to however many bloodlines. I do believe it has some connection in terms of like the fallen angel, when you look at the, you know, the emerald tablets and all that kind of stuff. So I do believe they have a very large connection with that world, and that's what forces a lot of what they do. I think the root of it is Lucifer, even though all the groups might have slightly different views on things. Like, I believe it's all the same source, and I think this is where the problem is, because these people have shaped our world this way, and they program people so well. You know, even if you look at like the average IQ now, it's low, you know, and it's worrying. And the worrying thing for me is people just don't care. And that's how you know people are lost, because if you don't care about these things, I don't understand why you're here, because this is the whole point of us being here. So it baffles my mind that people just don't care, you know. It's like people are just existing and not living. It's just mad to me, you know. And like, if I have kids one day, like God willing, I don't want to say to my kids I didn't do anything, you know. I had all these beliefs and I did nothing to do anything, you know. I'm sorry, I had all these beliefs and I did nothing about it, you know. I don't want to say that. And I've always said I would rather die standing and live on my knees, and that's something I'll always stand by, no matter how much it hurts, because I always remember I'm not here, and I've had to drill this into myself, because I am a people pleaser, and I'm trying to knock that out of myself to some degree, because for me it's like the only thing you want to be pleasing is God, because we can get judged here. People can say we're crazy for having these beliefs, or we're crazy because we're conspiracy theorists. Obviously we know that's a term coined by the CIA not long after the whole Kennedy assassination, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. But like, what I always say to people is like, for me, I don't really care what they think, because at the end of the day, when you die and you're there for eternity, that's going to be way worse than any judgment I could ever face here. God is going to judge me harsher than any person here. These people don't even have a right to judge you. That's the thing, God does. So for me, it's like, why am I going to care about pleasing these people and conforming? And I think this is a time for people to stand up for whatever their beliefs are, because if we don't, I think we're going to be in a very sticky place. Regardless of what your beliefs are, as hard as it is, we still have to hold respect. I personally don't think like screaming in people's faces is going to do anybody any favors. I just think it makes it an even harder uphill battle. I think there's some people where you no matter what you do, no matter what you say, they're not going to see it, and that's fine, you know. But that doesn't mean we can't both have respect. There's no point sitting there just arguing about it all day. Like, only fools argue with fools. So if you're going to sit there and like, it's fair enough to try once or twice, of course you've got to give it a try, and try and help educate people and try and help people realize certain things. But if it's not going through and you're hitting a brick wall, move on, because you're wasting your time and it's not good for your energy or anybody else's, and then you get angry, and then to be honest, you look just as bad as they do. So for me, it's like, you just have to kind of move on with this stuff, and we have to have respect for each other, even though we've got different beliefs. And that's what I find frustrating, and this is why what they're doing works so well in terms of how they've split everything up and caused division between people using religion, race, all these different things. It's worked so well, and people fall into the trap so easily, and it's heartbreaking. You know, there's so many big groups out there that are claiming to help, you know, certain genders or you know, certain groups of people or whatever, and they're infiltrated. You know, they use these groups and these charities and all these kind of things that I just honestly believe they're infiltrated, and they're actually there to cause more problems than they are to help. And until we realize that, I don't see a lot changing, sadly. But Yeah, they're kind of like some of my strange beliefs. It's probably not all of them. I can't think of all of them at the moment, but there's some of my strange ones. A lot of people always ask me whether I believe the earth is round or flat. Now, I don't really like this kind of argument. It's never overly interested me to research it. Half the time I just thought, you know what, I'll stick to the other stuff that interests me a bit more. But I don't want to debate this subject because, again, I'm not knowledgeable enough. But do I believe the earth is a cylinder spinning ball? Probably not. I believe it's probably more like how the Bible's obviously I'm going to believe in that because that's my beliefs, but how the Bible portrays it as like more of like the firmament, like domey type thing maybe. I don't know, but I haven't overly looked into that. It's not a subject that really overly interests me, but no, I don't really live on a spinning ball. I just don't believe anything they tell you, to be honest. Some things are true, the basic shit. That would be my answer. I would go with it's more dome shaped with the firmament, and then the water, but who knows. It's not really a thing I want to get overly into. It's the same thing when people ask about climate change. It's like, I can tell you what my gut instinct, but I'm not researched enough to be able to actually tell you some type of knowledgeable answer to that. My instincts would just go the opposite of whatever they tell us usually. So yeah, something to me that don't make sense in it. But yeah, there's some of my strange beliefs. I'm trying to think if there's any more. Yeah, I can't think of any at the top of my head, but if I do, I'll definitely do a follow-up video on this. So I want to see if people can comment down their things, that their strange beliefs or things that they believe in, or what they think about some of the things that I do. Some people might just think I'm absolutely nuts, but to be fair, I think everyone else is. So obviously I don't believe in a lot of what's going on now. Obviously, I think that goes without saying. I don't think we've been, like I've always said, I don't think we've been told the truth about viruses in general. If you look back into history, I think there's something going on, but there's a lot of stuff in the medical industry that is not true. You know, I'd always say to people, research history, look into the 19th century, look at what the oil tycoons did with the Flexner report, look at what happened with them creating the educational board and buying seats, funding the research. Just look into the money and what they do. And even when they first started releasing their products and cancer started being caused from them, instead of addressing their product, they just opened a cancer institute, the little buggers. But this is how you know, when you look back into history and you see what they've done, you just see how our Western medicine industry is BS. And this is why I say I don't believe in a lot of it. I think it's great for acute trauma in a lot of ways, but chronic disease, I think a lot of the time they've created a problem and given us a temporary solution, which isn't really that great. Like I said, we've got sick care, not health care. They don't really tell people enough about the truth about health to stay healthy. They don't give us great food, water, air. Like, it's just insane. And like I said, there's a lot of other ways to go about things, but they don't tell people that. And now we live in a society where a lot of people don't want to make the effort to make them changes, sadly, which is really sad. But there's a lot of that. I would always say look into the history, because where it started will kind of tell you the basis of what it's about. So that's something worth looking into. But yeah, obviously I don't believe in that structure of things either. But I think that's probably pretty obvious, especially now studying nutrition. I've noticed how many roadblocks I keep hitting. Great lab studies for this food or this vitamin or this, not vitamin, sorry, or like this herb or whatever, and it'd be like, oh, but no human studies funded. I'm like, I wonder why. And it happens time and time again, and you start to understand why after a while. But it's just very, very frustrating, you know. And I think people are very indoctrinated that have gone to universities and studied like parts of medicine and biology, and I certainly was. And it's hard when you spent all that time learning sometimes to have to relearn. But unfortunately, that's the best thing, because that's the only way you can really help people. So yeah, that stuff's worth looking at. But I definitely don't believe in the structure we've got over here. I think it's just crazy. And I just think people are so heavily programmed now. Yeah, it's insane. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you guys in my next one. About to go put my tinfoil hat on now.